So regarding this blood coagulation, that is what we have studied. Coagulation, you know what do you mean by coagulation? Simply means clotting, blood clotting. So what is the meaning of homeostasis in blood coagulation? Here the meaning is very clearly mentioned: maintaining the balance between bleeding and clotting. So that process is known by the name coagulation. Now, the homeostasis is a process that prevents and stop bleeding. For example, when some kind of injury is there will be loss of blood, and that process is known by the name bleeding. And the homeostasis actually means maintaining same state. It's a process that prevents and stop bleeding while maintaining the blood fluidity within vessel. The problem with the blood clotting is that when body is focusing too much on blood clotting, the liquid nature of the blood will be slowly decreased, or the fluidity of the blood will be decreased. So there should be a balance between clotting as well as this bleeding. So that process is what we mean by homeostasis. Now ensure the blood remains fluid in vessel but clots when necessary to prevent excessive blood loss. So if there are too much amount of clotting factors inside the blood will be clotting most of the time. So to prevent that, the amount of clotting factors will be kept at a minimum. Only the clotting will take place only when there is absolute necessity. So that aspect is what is mentioned under the homeostasis in blood clotting. Here you can see that there are several phases in homeostasis or in clotting. The first step is known by the name vascular spasm or vascular constriction or vasoconstriction. That simply means the blood vessels will be contracting. Here the size of the blood vessel is that if it is contracting, the opening will decrease. So that contraction of the blood vessel is known by the name vascular spasm or simply vasoconstriction. Simply means the blood vessels are contracting, reducing the amount of blood passing through that. Now the second phase of clotting is known as platelet plug formation. You know there are three different types of blood cells are there: RBC, WBC, and non-nucleated type of cells are there, which we call by the name platelet. They come together, join with each other or attach with each other, and that process is known by the name platelet adhesion or platelet aggregation, and they will be sticking together to form a temporary plug or temporary solid structure that is known as platelet plug. Now somehow here I will show you how this platelet plug will be represented. I will show you a picture showing. See here, if you look at the platelet plug, normally this is one of the first event that is usually taking place. See here you can see that. So when there is an injury, at that site of injury, see here you can see this is known as a platelet plug. See, so a lot of platelets will come together and form a sticky substance there, so that blood may not be able to pass through the hole. That process is known by the name platelet plug formation. So it is an important event in the clotting. And third step is the coagulation cascade. Coagulation cascade refers to the number of steps which are involved in the. So the coagulation process is actually going through a series. See here you can see that. This is also known by the name clotting cascade, or otherwise known by the name coagulation cascade. So in a clotting cascade or coagulation cascade, you can see that there are number of protein substances which we call by the name clotting factors, and these clotting factors are activated in a stepwise manner. The first one, this is activated, then factor 12 activated, factor 11 activated, factor 9, then factor 10. Finally, the fibrinogen will be converted into fibrin, forming the blood clot. So this is how normally the clotting process is going on, And this cascade actually means waterfall. So this cascade is taking place in a stepwise manner. That is why we call it by the name coagulation cascade. And the final process in the coagulation cascade is the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin to stabilize the clot. Then another step is that after the clot formation, there is another event known as clot retraction. That is, so in a clot retraction, what happens is that, see, normally once the clot is formed, here you can see that. So in a clot retraction, this is how the event is actually. So the clot has formed. After some time, what we are seeing is that the clot will gradually dissolve. The clot contract to reduce the wound size. That is what is happening during clot retraction. So that is here you can see that the clot will be there is some opening here, and clot will be pulling the tissues together, so that opening will be sealed. So this event is what we call by the name clot retraction. That is also an important step in the here. So if there is a vector picture, I will show you. Here this is also another picture showing clot retraction. See, here you can see, none of these pictures are actually correctly showing the clot retraction. So this is the process that is actually taking place during the clot formation. That is, during clot retraction, clot will be undergoing contraction and reducing the size of the wound or size of the opening. And finally, the clot removal. Plasmin dissolve the clot after vessels are repaired. So this is known by the name clot removal. So here you can see that this is how normally this event will be taking place. This is so once the clot has been formed, the clot has to be removed after the period of healing. So that process, that there is an enzyme known by the name plasmin that will be dissolving the clot once the vessels are completely repaired. And that step is known by the name fibrinolysis, otherwise known by the name clot removal. So if you go to the different steps in clotting, it begins with the vasoconstriction. There is a platelet plaque formation. There is a coagulation cascade. There is clot retraction, and finally clot removal. Then, so this is what is known as a platelet adhesion. These are all the small cells are known by the name platelets. They will come together and stick together at the site of the injury or the wound, so that no more blood will be moving out. Now, what are the factors which are involved in homeostasis? One is anticoagulant, endothelial cells, and fibrinolytic system. So they will be inhibited. Anticoagulants is that work that prevents clotting. That is why they are known as anticoagulant. So they will be inhibiting the clotting factors. So the number of examples are there: antithrombin, protein, etc. Then endothelial cells are there. This is another they produce substance to inhibit platelet. See here you can see that. So platelets are coming together, joining with each other. That is known as platelet adhesion or platelet plaque formation. And this substance produce certain substance to inhibit, like nitric oxide or prostacyclin. They will be able to prevent this attachment of platelets with each other. So that is known as the role played by endothelial cell. Then fibrinolytic system, they will be dissolving the clot after the vessels are completely repaired. So these are the three events in the regulation of homeostasis. And you might have heard about certain diseases known by the hemophilia. In the case of hemophilia, what happens is that there won't be any clotting of blood. See here you can see that in a hemophiliac patient, so the blood will not clot even after even if the injury is very small. So that process is known by the name hemophilia. You can see that even for a small clot, blood will be coming out for a longer time, and sometimes they have to be given artificial anticoagulant to prevent blood to produce blood clotting. Then another disease is excessive clot formation, leading to conditions like DVT, deep vein thrombosis. The DVT means deep brain thrombosis. I will show you. This condition is known by the name thrombosis. I will show you deep vein thrombosis. This is known as a DVT. So in a deep vein thrombosis, see here, this you can see that in some people legs will be having this kind of red marks, and that red marks is actually a sign that something is not proper. See here also you can see that these kind of markings on the legs are not actually a good sign. So that is known by the name deep vein thrombosis, and that is clotting is happening inside the blood vessel. So that is known by the name deep vein. Here also you can see that this is how the deep vein thrombosis is actually taking place. So this is the blood vessel. So sometimes a clot will be forming here, and as a result of clot, the blood may not be able to pass through properly. So what happens is that on the leg we can see this kind of, on the legs we can find this kind of markings will be there. So this is known by the name deep vein thrombosis. So here you can see that. So this is actually the deep vein thrombosis. This is actually blood clotting on the inner blood vessel. Immediately it won't be noticed by most people. Only doctors can pinpoint that. So that situation is known by the DVT or deep vein thrombosis. Then, so these are some of the diseases which are then DIC, excessive clotting and bleeding. DIC means the full form of DIC means disseminated intravascular coagulation. That is a full form. You simply remember DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation, and it's a serious disorder, abnormal or blood clotting inside the blood vessel. So if there is any kind of blood clotting inside the blood vessel, we call it by the name deep vein disseminated intravascular coagulation. It's a situation very similar to DVT. Both DIC and DVT are somewhat similar. So these are all DIC. The coagulation is taking place inside the blood vessel. So these are some of the major disorders of blood clotting or homeostasis. Then coming to the proper maintenance of blood clotting or hemostasis of blood clotting, what is important is that when there is a need for clotting, blood should clot. But if there is excessive clotting, unnecessary clotting, this kind of DIC, disseminated intravascular clotting can take place, coagulation can take place, or DVT can take place. Both are harmful for the person. So this is the first part. Now we have another